Welcome back to what is potentially the last session of our MÖRK campaign. Last we left off, Spiker had betrayed Napalm and Rebar and had tried to get both of them killed by the giant man ogre. This was because Napalm had the god of the pregnant bull in his neck and Rebar had killed Spiker's brother in the past. Now that Napalm has died, the god of the pregnant bull has found residence within Rebar's body. And this is where we begin our session today. Rebar lowers his Zweihander, breathing heavily. He had just slain the man ogre, as well as Barb and Rilk, the two cultists of the cult of the Howling Lamb. Suddenly, he feels an immense pain. We know that the cult of the pregnant bull is associated with some sort of body horror, so to speak. When Napalm raided the crypt of the cult of the pregnant bull, his fellow soldiers had their bodies torn asunder by the god. Napalm was lucky enough not to have suffered the same fate. Instead, what he got was a god that lived inside his neck. Now my question is, does the god of the pregnant bull inflict the same fate on Rebar? Does it morph one of his body parts? I'd say that's very likely. So I'm going to roll 3d20 and I'm going to pick the highest one. That is a yes. So what body part of his transmogrifies into something else? I don't know, let's roll for it. 1 to 2 it's his head, 3 to 4 it's his torso, 5 it's his hands, and 6 is his legs. 1, it is his head. I was actually secretly hoping it will be his head so that I could make it real freaky. Let's see here, okay, I think I'm gonna lengthen this part here and make that a bit more bulbous, and yeah, I don't think he's gonna look so happy anymore after this. Not that he looked happy to begin with, but now he's just gonna be downright grumpy. Bit of shadow there, a little bit more here. I think he won't be able to see out of this eye very well, which doesn't bode well, because if you remember, he's still going blind in his eyes. So that can't be good. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. So Rebar feels this immense pain and starts scratching at his face. And he realizes that there's this enormous bulge there. And the god speaks to him. "You must kill Spiker," it says to him. Now, we know that Spiker put a curse on Rebar. A curse that is causing him to slowly go blind. My question is Spiker trying to intensify that spell right now? Is he trying to quicken up the blindness of Rebar? I'm gonna say that's very likely. So roll 2d20, pick the higher one. 14, that's a yes. Now my question is he able to do it? The reason why I ask this is because Rebar now has the god of the pregnant bull on his side. And the god of the pregnant bull does not want the vessel that he's in to be blind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his presence, I'm going to add 2 to it. And I'm going to do a DR12 move. So that's going to be 2d20. 7 and 15. So one of them passes, one of them fails. Weak hit. Rebar is starting to go blind quicker, but not immediately. He still has some time. The god of the pregnant bull speaks to him. "If you do not kill Spiker, you will forever lose your vision. Go, now!" I think Rebar starts to see blurriness in his vision and he rushes forward into the next room. If I remember right, we have a +5 to our dungeon crawling, and we're trying to hit a DR of 10. Oh, thank god we had that +5. We found a new special room. Now, this is an interesting question. Before I roll anything about the room, I'm going to roll his room exits. The reason I'm doing this is because we have uncovered 2 special rooms thus far. There's a 50% chance that this leads to a dead end. So does it? It does. This is, by all accounts, a dead end for Spiker. So what kind of room is it? I can't imagine that Spiker will not have a plan B. But what will his plan B be? I don't know. I think we're gonna roll for it. So I think we're gonna use the Chaos Portents in my solo rules. Oh, by the way, as you can see, I've been prettying this up and it will be ready for release pretty soon. Maybe even at the time that this recording is out, actually. So let's see here. Make that a single page so that's easier to see. And we're going to roll for the first one. 33. Save. 93. Victim. Save victim. So Spiker's plan is to save victim. Victim as in the people who have died here? The prisoners that Spiker and his cult have killed? Is he trying to raise some kind of necromantic power that can raise the dead and can turn all of the prisoners against Rebar? I think that's the case. I think that Rebar rushes into this room and is a gigantic ritualistic sacrificial chamber, and there are prisoners strung up on the far side of the wall. Maybe there are, let's see here, 7 of them, why not? I think Spiker is right here, and he turns around. Is he surprised to see that Rebar has survived? I think he is. Let's roll for that. Likely. He is quite surprised. I think this might not have been a backup plan even. I think they were planning to do this from the beginning regardless of whether Rebar survived or not. The Cult of the Howling Lamb. We know that the Cult of the Pregnant Bull is a cult based around flesh transmogrification, which makes sense. Like, bull can't become pregnant. So, that makes sense. What is the Cult of the Howling Lamb? Well, lambs are traditionally used for sacrifice. It's a cult based around using sacrifice in order to gain power. Spiker was planning to have an army of ghouls, and by destroying the Cult of the Pregnant Bull and the god itself, that power could be added to the ritual as well. At least that's what I'm thinking. My question is, has the ritual started? I think it's unlikely. The reason I think it's unlikely is because I think he would want all of his cult members to join him in this final ritual, and Barb and Rilk were supposed to survive. Unlikely. Let's see. Choose the lower one. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, he hasn't started the ritual yet. I think he sees Rebar. He sees this bulge in Rebar's head, and he knows what's going on. What's his strategy gonna be here? Well, he wasn't planning on Rebar to survive, but I can't imagine that Barb and Rilk were the only other cult members who were going to be around to witness this ritual. Are there others in the shadows of this room? I'm gonna say that's likely. Yes, and... oh no. Solitary Defilement has rules for crowd sizes, and since it was a yes and, I have to be fair about this. Medium will be a d20 plus 12. I am going to roll a d20. That will be how many people are in the room. I want Rebar to have a fighting chance, but I have to be fair about this. d20. How many cultists are in the room together with Spiker? 10. Oh shit. From the shadows, 10 other cultists come out. Oh no. Rebar sees these 10 cultists come out, and the question is, do any of them have any missile weapons? I'm gonna say this is very, very unlikely. So 2d20. Pick the lower one. No, none of them have any missile weapons. Stands to reason since this is supposed to be a ritual. All of them just have daggers of some sort. Spiker stands in the middle of the room with a shit-eating grin on his face. What does Rebar do? So the cultists have come from the sides of the room. He can still make it. He can still run for Spiker and use him as a hostage. I think he has to do it. I think he has to yet again wear his Taunts of Comprehension. Instead of a D2, it is now a D4 damage. 3 damage. So Rebar now has 6 HP. However, that will give him a -4 DR to his next test and ignore the next 2 attacks. I'm gonna make this an agility check, and I'm gonna put it at a DR 12, but it is now a DR 8. DR 8 in -3, 5. He has to get both above a 5. If he gets a strong hit, he gets to Spiker without getting any damage. If he gets a weak hit, half are able to land an attack on him. So that's 5 attacks. -2 because of the Taunts of Comprehension. If he gets a failure, he eats 10 attacks. -2, so that's 8. But he's still probably gonna die if that happens. Let's see. How does he do? Oh my god. He did it! Neither were below a 5. He's able to rush to the edge of the room and tackle Spiker to the ground. He takes out his Zweihander and pokes it into Spiker's back. Nobody move, he says. He looks behind him at the prisoners, who are all strung up. They're not dead yet, but are they conscious? I say that's a 50-50. That's a random event. I'd like to note that I have made a change to my random events. 10 is no longer a yes and a random event. It's just a random event. And if I keep rolling 10s, they all happen at once. Although that's very unlikely. But I keep rolling until I get a yes or no, and that goes along with the random event. So rolling again. And I get another random event. That's a 1 in 400 chance. Okay. Rolling one more time. And I get a 1. No end. They are not conscious and they are not gonna wake up. They were put to sleep with some kind of serum or something. But now, what happens with the random events? I'm very curious as to what's going to happen right now. 2d6. 6 and 6. Plot twist. Okay. Plot twist is the most unlikely thing to happen. Or at least one of the two most unlikely results on that table. What is the plot twist? That's a 1. Allow. 5. Allow light. Allow light. A plot twist of allow light. What is the second random event? 2 and 1. A new NPC. Allow light. Light as in holy. Allow light. And a new NPC. Oh my god. I know what this is. I know what this is. The cultists all gasp in unison as suddenly Rebar feels the bulge in his head lessen. It goes away. He wonders what they're gasping at. At first he thinks that they're gasping at the fact that he's no longer hideously deformed. But then he realizes a sound coming from behind him. And as he looks back, this gigantic whirlwind of flesh, as all of the bodies of the prisoners amalgamate into one being. They transform into a gigantic, pregnant bull of flesh. It rears its head at the ceiling and roars. Holy shit. Allow light means that these vessels, who have been devoid of consciousness, now have the Holy Spirit of the pregnant bull within them. Or the unholy spirit as it were. And new NPC means that the god of the pregnant bull is now personified. Everyone is stunned in horror, including me actually. I had no idea this was gonna happen. I think what happens next is a massacre. As all of the cultists are slaughtered. I don't think it's even gonna be a fight. They have daggers against a god? No way. I'm gonna give them a fighting chance. Spiker, as we know, is being held still by the awestruck Rebar as this gigantic bull runs around the room, flinging cultists into the air. Do any of them survive this onslaught? Very unlikely. No, none of them do. Only Spiker remains. And I think at this point, the pregnant bull, having completed its massacre and have eaten its fill of cultists, and now significantly larger, walks towards Spiker and Rebar. Rebar still grabbing Spiker, almost as if Spiker were still a hostage, and Spiker in tears. His friends dead, his cult destroyed, his worst fears realized. Let go of him, says the bull. And I think Rebar does this without question. Please, spare me, please, says Spiker. And what can you possibly offer me, son of lamb? Says the bull, and devours him. And for a moment there's just silence. Just the bull and Rebar. Rebar looks up at this gigantic bull. Here's the question. What happens to Rebar now? He will no longer go blind, because the spell put on him by Spiker is now gone. In fact, I think he starts seeing more clearly. But what happens to him? What is asked of him by the god of the pregnant bull? I think that's something I can't decide right now. I am planning to start another campaign, another BORG campaign, and I would like the story to continue on from here. I don't want to make any such decision so rashly, so I think you will find out in the next campaign, whenever that might be. But as for right now, against all hope, Rebar has survived, and the god of the pregnant bull has been given new form. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I did not think that this campaign will come to an end in such a crazy way. I'd like to thank everybody who liked and subscribed, and the people who left very nice comments to me, either on the YouTube comments or Reddit or Discord or wherever the place might be. I hope you'll join me for the next season, where we find out what the ramifications of this crazy event is.
My steeple, my spirit, my church.